Exercise 4-1 has two parts to it. In the first part, it's asking us to create an income statement using the single-step method, and then the second part, it's asking us to use the multi-step method. We're going to do that in two videos, so you can come and go as you please. The information for this problem was given to you, and I've loaded that given information onto the spreadsheet so you wouldn't have to watch me type. As I prepare the income statement, which I've put a format for you right here, as I prepare it, I'm going to go through and show you some Excel shortcuts along the way. So first thing to know, in a single step income statement, you're simply taking all your revenues and gains and then all of your expenses and losses, coming up with income before taxes, calculating your income tax expense, and then coming up with your net income. And in this case, they've added a little twist from the exercises we've done before. They've asked us to do an earnings per share calculation. So let's go ahead in and start this problem. First thing from a formatting standpoint is remember that you're labeling your income statement. So you're going to start with the name of your company, what statement you're doing, and in this case it's an income statement. And when you do an income statement, you have to record the period of time as for the year ended or for the quarter ended. In this case, it's for the year ended December 31st, 2013. When you format an income statement, you want the title centered over the statements. So I've highlighted 3 columns with my data because I'm going to have my title column, I'm going to have my debit column or my sub-schedule column, and I'm going to have my final schedule column. Let's look at it that way. When I highlight that section, I'm going to right-click and select Format Cell. I'm doing a horizontal centering of information, so I'm going to come down to Center Across Selection, hit OK, and you can see that the title's centered across the 3 columns that were selected. When I set up the format, I also know that I have subtitles, revenues and gains, expenses and losses, and I want those to stand out. So when you type those in, those are typed in, typed in looking like the rest of the data, but I'd like them italicized. Again, a subtitle should be italicized overall. 2 methods to get there. Either hit the Control I, that'll italicize your information for you. And if you don't like how it came out, you can Control I back, or come up here on your shortcut key and select the I. That I right there says italicize the data that I'm looking at. Alright, so let's jump in. Sales information was given to us. I'm going to hit the shortcut of a plus key, and I'm going to link to my trial balance so I don't have a keying error. If you would rather, you can go ahead and just start typing in $1.3 million. It's up to you. For me, once I know that that cell is there, I know that the next 2 pieces of information are coming exactly from that same section. I'm going to just copy my formula down, and I'm going to do that by selecting Control C. Highlight the 2 data areas that I want to populate, and I'm going to hit Control V. I'm going to skip my subtotals and totals for now, and I'm going to just keep populating data. So same process on cost of goods sold, except I'm doing a slight subschedule in order to get my total expenses and losses. I'm going to start with cost of goods sold. And again, I know that the data that I'm picking up next are in my given data exactly in the order that I'm picking it up. So I'm going to hit a Control C and a Control V to populate all the way down to interest. If the data was in a different order, so for example, if we were going from cost of goods sold to general and administrative expenses, you wouldn't be able to do that Control C, Control V because your data would be in a different order. Just keep that in mind. The rest of this is about doing math. So the first thing I need is to add up sales plus interest plus gain on sale of investment in order to calculate what my revenues and gains are. I'm going to do that by an @sum function. So I'm going to select @ which is the character that's over the number 2 on your keyboard. I'm going to type in the word sum, open my parentheses, and I'm going to highlight the area that I want to be included in this mathematical equation. hit enter, and I have a formula that you can see up here that says what I want to add together are cells G6 through G8. Because I did math, I escaped to get out of there. Because I did math, I also want to indicate I did math by putting a line on top of the number that that's my summation. When I do the next sum of data, which is what my total expenses and losses are, I'm going to do it using a different method. I'm going to use this function key right here. This function key is saying I want to do something mathematically. What do I want to do? If I click on the function key and type in the word sum, because that's what I'm doing, I'm adding things together, it gives me a list of functions that have the word sum in them. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just going to go ahead and select the sum. And I get this dialog box that says, what are you trying to add together? And you can add numbers that are not in a column together. In this case, I'm going to add a column. So I'm going to literally just click on this little button here that says take me to my spreadsheet. I'm going to highlight the 4 numbers I want to add together. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to hit OK. And my math has worked out for me. Again, it's a same formula we saw before. It's an equal sum instead of an at sign, and then it's the highlighted cells. You can do math on a calculator if you wanted, but I'd like to start seeing you use Excel so I can see where your numbers came from. Alright, so now I'm going to be calculating. Right here I would want to put a indication that I did some math, so I'm going to put a bottom border in. And now I want to calculate what my income before taxes are. My income before taxes are going to be my total revenue and gains minus my total expenses and losses. So I hit the plus sign and I clicked on my total revenue and gains, and the minus sign and I clicked on my total expenses and losses, and I hit enter. And I now have the mathematical equation that tells me that income before taxes are $385,000. Again, I did some math, so I'm going to go ahead and indicate that. It's then asking me to calculate my interest expense, and actually the adjusted trial balance gave us that number, so I'm going to hit the plus sign and link over. I could just type 130, but if any data here changes, I would have to retype it. I'm going to show you the benefits of just populating the data in a minute. Net income is going to be another calculation. It's going to be my income before taxes minus my taxes. So again, I just hit the plus sign. I clicked on the cell where my income before taxes are. I hit the minus sign, and I clicked on the cell where my income tax expense is, and I hit enter. And my net income is $255,000. I'm going to format the cell with a single line above and a double line below to basically indicate that I'm done with the math, and that's my final number in this schedule. From a formatting standpoint, anytime I start a column of numbers, I want a dollar sign. So I'm going to start by putting a dollar sign. What you just saw happen there was my cell, when I added the dollar sign, added decimals. So my cell expanded, and I'll show you that again in a minute. My column of numbers here starts with a dollar sign, so I don't need to put one anywhere else except at the end. I need this column of numbers to start with a dollar sign as well. So watch what happens. Up here in my formatting area, I hit the dollar sign. I could also right-click, select format, and under my number category I could select currency. What this says is if I have a negative number, I want it to be in black and I want a minus sign in front of it, or I want it to be in red and I don't want a minus sign, or I want it in black with parentheses, or I want it in red with parentheses. So red or black. And what the point of that is if you're doing financial statements, sometimes the negative numbers will be in red. In this case, I just want basic currency. In reality, I would probably select the third one down for most of the work that I did on a financial basis, but it's up to you. I'm telling it that I want currency, which means that it's going to allow me to select a symbol. I'm going to select a $sign, and I'm going to select 0 decimal places. And it just go ahead and populates the $sign right before the number. If I had selected this one up here, you see that it automatically expands the column because it selects a default for me that says add 2 decimals, and then I want to get rid of the decimals. So this is increased decimals or decreased decimals. I'm going to decrease, and now my column width expanded again, and I can't see part of the data that's in column G. If I click up on the top of F, I can just shrink that column back. I could right-click on it and say column width and give me a column width of 10, and it'll go ahead and fix my column width overall. So just some formatting tricks. Again, we're going to do it again. I'm going to shrink this a little bit so you can see what happens when my column's not wide enough. A bunch of number signs show up. I'll fix that in a minute. If again I hit my $sign, we see it expands. I'm going to get rid of my decimals, and I'm going to shrink my column. Okay, so how did I shrink that column so quickly? Actually, we're going to do it on this column right here. Column F right now has a list of numbers, but I can't see what they are. And if I was to print this out, I wouldn't be able to tell what they were either. If you highlight up in the area at the top where your column indicators are, your column letters, and you get the double arrow as I'm showing at the top, if you double click, it will expand the width of the column to be the width that you need in order for all your numbers to show. So it's not going to dictate that all the widths are the same. It's saying for this column I need it to be this wide. Again, as I showed you before, your other option is to say, you know what, I want column F and G, which are both number columns, to be the same width. So you can highlight them, right-click, select column width, and put the number that you want, which in this case I said 10. And then when I look at it, I go, oops, 10's not big enough here. Let's make it a little better, bigger. Just some tricks again. So we have one thing left to do in this problem, and that's calculate earnings per share. And what we know is that an earnings per share calculation is going to be your final net income divided by the number of shares outstanding. That's your basic and easiest formula. I'm going to do it by letting Excel do the math for me. So I'm going to hit my plus sign, and I'm going to click on my net income. And then I'm going to divide it by the shares outstanding that were given to us in the problem. My earnings per share should be a dollar calculation, and it's a final calculation. So I'm going to double line at the bottom. And that's all we have for exercise 4-1. Again, formatting in Excel can be a little bit tricky, but walk through it and try some things out on your own. To the extent that you can, don't repeat typing data. Use the plus signs in order for you to be able to use this as a template. So let me show you what happens. If we had keyed, I'm going to key 30,000, and I'll fix that in a minute. So I used a plus sign on my sales number, but I keyed 30,000 on my interest number. If I come over to my given data and I want to use this as a template, if I change this number to be $100, just so you can see it, you can see 100 updates because I said anytime this cell changes, I want to change this cell. That's why I linked them. When I entered 30,000, I didn't do the same thing. So on the 30,000 number, if I was to change that to 20, you can see that 20 changes, but 20 doesn't come over to here because I didn't link it. If instead I link it by hitting the plus sign, it changes. That's the benefit right there of linking cells instead of just typing. So now let me go back and fix the numbers to the numbers that were in the problem. Our sales revenue was $1,300,000 and our interest was $30,000. That's all we have for this example. I'm going to come back and do 4.2, so the multi-step income statement, in a separate video. If you have questions, send me an email or bring them to class with you on Wednesday. Thank you.